Okay, in this video, I figured I'd knock this out quick. How many of you have seen the movie Saving Private Ryan? You remember they're trying to defend that bridge. They know they're going to be dealing with German armor. Tom Hanks comes up with the idea of a sticky bomb because he says it's in the field manual. Well, the field manual it would be in is FM 5-25 Explosives and Demolitions. Looks like 1942, maybe 1943 edition, somewhere around there. And have fun trying to find a copy. I can't find a free one anywhere, and people are asking for a minimum of $50 each for a paper copy. Now, my suspicion is that maybe this is in the manual, but guess what? It does not work. Now, what they did, they took a sock and they packed it full of explosive blocks. In the movie, it was Composition B. But the blocks they're putting in were more of this. Half-pound TNT type blocks. It has capped well on one side. The other side is capped off. The actual military issue TNT blocks, which you only find in training, is green with a yellow writing on it. Now they put in rudimentary fuses, which would be a cap and some type of time fuse. Now, the only way this would potentially work is you have to rely on what's called sympathetic detonation, where one block goes off, the one next to it explodes. Now, according to military safety regulations for explosives, with this type of system doing it this way, in this type of little series, this block and this block would have to be the ones that are both primed, because there's 4 here in a series. Because they say this block will for sure detonate this block and might detonate this block. Now, could you get away with just priming it once? Yes, and if I would put it here. If I got 4 in a series, I would put it here on number 2. Put the initiation system inside that. And then you take the sock, you coat it with grease so that it's going to stick to the side of a vehicle. That's where the problem lies. See, the British actually did create sticky bombs or sticky grenades and started issuing them after Dunkirk, when they lost most of their anti-tank assets in France. Well, they were talking about, we're going to have to defend the homeland, we're going to have to defend against tanks, what are we going to do? They did not have the Piat yet, their version of an anti-tank weapon. A roughly shoulder-fired spigot mortar. They came up with what was called something like the number 74 or number 75 sticky bomb, which was a glass container filled with explosives with a burlap or cloth covering over the top, which was impregnated with glue. You had a initiation system, which was the handle, and it came inside a clamshell metal case. When the enemy tank would come along, you would open up the metal case, you would arm it, and in doctrine you were supposed to throw it at the enemy tank and it was supposed to stick to it. When the glass would hit the side of the armor, it would break, that side would then conform to the armor, and then the glue would stick to the armor and the tank would explode and it would breach the armor plating, so on and so forth. There's a huge problem, and there's a couple things wrong with the scene in Saving Private Ryan. First off, and this is something the Iraqi insurgents found this out when they tried employing these against US vehicles in Iraq. When a vehicle is moving, it kicks up dust, especially in a combat zone, in urban warfare. There's going to be dust, there's going to be dirt, there's going to be crud all over the place. Well, guess what? It's going to kick that up and the vehicle's going to get coated in it. And what the British found out, well, when they tried throwing these grenades at the tanks to get them to stick, they stuck to the dust and then fell right off. The Iraqi insurgents found the same thing. Now, supposedly, according to Wikipedia, British troops and Australian troops learned that in order for these grenades to be successful, they had to run up to the tank and slap it on the side and push it on there to stick it in place. Well, that's another issue there, because if you're dumb enough to put your hand in the glue, it's going to stick to you too, and it's probably going to stick to you better than it will the dusty metal on the side of the tank. Begin to see the idea on how this is kind of a failure. Military vehicles get dusty. Stuff that's supposed to stick to it like this, a grease-covered sock filled with explosives, it's going to stick to the dust and not the vehicle. It'll stick to the vehicle if it's nice and clean and just came out of the wash rack, but it ain't going to do it on the battlefield. So for something like this to be considered practical on the battlefield, I'd say not in the way they used them in the movie. And definitely a sock with just a couple pounds of explosive in it is not going to blow a tread off a tank, not even during World War II. Maybe very early World War II, like 1939, but by 1944 definitely not. Especially not on a Tiger tank. Now, could something like this potentially be used in combat for us? Yes. There is only one situation where I think something like this might have some type of practicality, and that is if you are trying to destroy, say, fuel tanks. Your big tanks that are storing 10,000, 50,000 or how many gallons of fuel. Well, in that situation, you would go up to it. You would have to wipe off the dirt and crud from the side because, hey, wind-blown stuff is still going to adhere to that metal too. Then stick your charge right on it and make sure it's sticking. And then light your fuse and hope that it doesn't fall off. Which, quite frankly, I have a feeling that it, you know, a 75 to 80% chance it's going to fall off. So, but there you go. You know, highly impractical, proven to be not very trustworthy on the battlefield for very glaring, obvious reasons to anyone who ever served. So there you go. I don't know if I should call this a Hollywood sticky bomb, if I should call it a World War II sticky bomb, or if I should call it an Iraqi insurgent sticky bomb. By the time I post this, I'm sure I'll come up with a title for it, but definitely one of those things I would not recommend. And the way they use it in a movie definitely will not work. And I gave you the one way where I could potentially see it might work, but even then, I really doubt it. And one thing you'd have to keep in mind is you would have to get out of the blast radius too. If that charge does somehow stay stuck to the side of the tank and then it explodes, you have to be far away from that tank when it goes up, otherwise you're going to be caught in that fireball. And the longer that charge is quote-unquote sticking to the side of the tank, increases the likelihood it's going to fall off. and you're going to be talking, you got to have some major distance between you and that tank before that thing goes up. I think the German method for this would be a lot better, which was using magnets. The basically predecessor for the limpet mine, which was distributed by the Soviets to insurgencies around the world. Now, is there stuff like that in manuals that I could throw together and show you and give you the historical context on this? Yeah, I'm going to have to do some looking up though. But there you go. The Hollywood sticky bomb. Definitely don't try it at home, and seriously, don't try it in combat either. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.